Oh, you really want the real story on that? Oh my goodness.
Born in Denmark, Peter Lassen emigrates to the United States and becomes a rancher in California, where he built the first foundry and Mace-ionic temple in the state, establishes a town or two, and constructed canals that are still in use 175 years later. Lassen's pioneering spirit made him famous enough that the state of California named a few landmarks after him, including a mountain, a national forest, and a cutoff trail known as the Death Route.
Peter Lassen is an early California pioneer, born in 1800 in Farmen, Denmark. Became a master blacksmith, immigrated to the United States after having permission from the Denmark government, from the king. I am Dave Freeman, former Boy Scout map and compass fellow who has advanced my skills to GIS, become fairly proficient at it. And I have been uncovering for the last 10 years sites of Peter Lassen here in Tehama County and all across the United States. His artifacts show that he spent some time either in New England or most likely Pennsylvania making mills. Then he went to Missouri and he built a mill there. Wanted to continue on into California, but the Mexican government wouldn't let him. He didn't have valid passport, he didn't have any money to bribe his way in. And eventually he curried favor with Mariano Vallejo and built him a mill in Petaluma. He was then paid for those mills by Vallejo with land at Santa Cruz. There he built a sawmill and participated in a revolt against the lieutenant governor and the governor of California at the time. It was called the Graham Affair, and all participants in that small revolution were given 22,000-acre land grants. Lassen picked this area here in Tehama County on Deer Creek, 3.45 leagues of land north of Deer Creek and 13 miles south of Deer Creek, 3.45 miles wide. He doesn't get here until 1844. He immediately starts making canals. Part of his infrastructure development is this creek here has a lot of black iron in it. Being a blacksmith in Denmark, he starts smelting and opens a foundry where he's making nails, castings, and he's making bearings for mills that he's selling essentially door to door to other early pioneers in California. Lassen's 1844 adobe site matches other places he lived. They have similar attributes. They're near a road at the time. They have access to water, or he brings water to it. And it was for his mills. He needed the road to bring in the grain and take away the flour. He needed customers. And if you're looking for a Lassen home site, it's going to be on a road, it's going to have access to water. He built 23 miles of canals here on Rancho Bosquejo, based on the Danish plan of canals, which is straight runs with angular corners, which are originally have Roman attributes. These canals are all set at a grade of 0.00% of grade, and they would need some serious engineering to pull off, even through solid rock. I'm almost this far from claiming that he built Sutter's canals in Sacramento to the fort and away from the fort to Sutterville.
On Rancho Bosquejo, Lassen established a foundry and 2 permanent settlements, Benton City and the town of Benton, both named in honor of the Missouri Senator Thomas Hart Benton, who helped co-finance Lassen's endeavors out west.
Benton City is the second town that Lassen had here. The first town is the town of Benton. It is on the south side of Deer Creek. Benton City is on the north side of Deer Creek. The town of Benton City consists of over 200 adobe sites. We've mapped them alongside the Lassen Trail and the Marysville to Shasta Road. And we knew somewhere here was the Masonic Hall. One of these had to be the Masonic Hall. And the significance of the Masonic Hall and the Masons at that time is most families that had any significance, any stature, social stature back then were Masons or affiliated with the Masonic order. In 1848, Peter Lassen, he heads back over the Sierras in the spring of 1848 with the Fremont Stockton group and heads back to his hometown of Missouri, Keatsville, Missouri, and acquires a Masonic charter. There were no other Masonic halls or charters in California. Lassen's charter was the first in California. It was registered second or third, but it was the first. He comes out with, depending on who you go by, 10 or 11 wagons of Masons. It picks up a few other stragglers of other immigrants and tries to make a new trail to California. At the site, we have found a half basement. We've done an excavation and found that when the building was demolished, there was the floor was still in place. All of the debris was put to each side. That's why we have copious amounts of artifacts around the building, but not in the half basement. We've also found white marbles, 2 white marbles, and those are for voting. The Masons would have white marbles and 1 black marble. But we have found 2 of the white voting marbles. Physical artifacts found at the site include the white marbles, nails showing that it was a wood frame building. We found doorknobs. There's an old Civil War era / Gold Rush era shovel there. There are pottery. There is adobe buildings. There are places where it appears wagons had parked and left their water buckets and other things like that. It was a very active and dynamic place from 1850 to 1860. There is development all around the Masonic Hall. There's to the north, a business district with the traditional single road and businesses on each side. In front of the Masonic Hall is an old hardware store, a couple of other buildings. There's a parallel run of the Lassen Trail with 19 side streets that were developed. Water for the town came from Lassen's nearby canal and mill pond. Lassen's 1844 compound is a stone's throw away with a small 26-inch grist mill.
Benton City should have been an oasis for those moving west, yet it is now nothing more than some artifacts in a field. Perhaps after all that was required of the journey in the first place, adding in a couple hundred extra miles along a cutoff known as the Death Route wasn't the most appealing. There are many journal entries and letters from this era complaining about the problems with the Lassen cutoff. Water was almost impossible to find, and the route itself was difficult to navigate and extremely difficult on the already worn wagons and equipment. And a lot of pioneers and immigrants in search of gold found themselves often sick or stranded on Lassen's cutoff.
The Lassen Trail was used from 1848 until 1852. It brought immigrants in, and then some of the immigrants ran down to the Feather River Canyon, and they looked for gold. So we have since found that spur that goes down to the Feather River. A funny thing happens on the way to the gold fields is the Lassen Trail wasn't used for immigration after the Nobles Trail was developed. Lassen helped develop the Nobles, but the Lassen Trail was then used from Benton City up to Big Meadows and then back down to Rich Bar area. There was always at least 1,500 to 2,000 miners down there. So this trail was worked backwards, essentially, after it was used.
Abby, what are you doing? Come on.